Welcome inside the vault for your noonday lunch hour live stream. I am Sarah Ellison, and unfortunately, I am riding solo again today because Bobby Trossett is headed in the wrong direction, honestly. Feeling bad for our guy. Still hit with that flu. He did head into the doctor yesterday. They are trying to make things a little bit better. But yeah, he's headed in the wrong direction. So hopefully he doesn't need to head into the doctor for a second time. Hopefully things can take a turn for the better. But we are wishing much love to Bobby. I know it's been brutal, absolutely brutal. His throat is on fire. He can hardly talk. He's having lots of different troubles, having a hard time sleeping. I don't want to get too much into it. I know that's his story to tell once he does recover, and hopefully that will happen over the weekend. So, Bobby, if you happen to be listening, and I hope you're not, I hope that you're sleeping and taking care of yourself. But if you are, we love you, and we hope you get better soon. Meanwhile, there is a lot of content to get to this afternoon. First off, the GOATs, Bill Belichick and Tom Brady on the Let's Go podcast spoke out. They did not hold back, and they gave, I think, fair but hard analysis. Things that you kind of have to look in the eye as the Ravens if you want to get better, if you want to move beyond where you've moved before. So got some analysis from them there. Mark Andrews, from the last time we spoke, has finally kind of broken his silence since that loss against the Bills and his drop 2-point conversion and fumble. He took to Instagram. He has not spoken with the media, but he did speak to Instagram. I'm sure most of you have seen that. So we'll look at what he had to say. I'll give you my thoughts on that and my reaction and where he's at. And then I think some really good news for the Ravens this morning. There are some updates in the head coaching realm of the NFL. I think there are now only 2 teams left looking for head coaches since the last time we spoke. The 2 head coaching positions that Todd Monken has interviewed for has been filled. We'll get into a little bit more of that. There's still 2 vacancies out there. So if you are hoping Todd Monken sticks around, we're getting closer, but we're not quite there yet. But lots of analysis going on there. I'm noticing people. I'm noticing the chat. You can get more information on Bobby. He posts a lot on Instagram. And you guys are right. He's looking rough. I really feel bad for him. I really, really feel bad for him. Obviously we've all got his back, and I'm calling him, texting him, doing everything I can to support him from here. And hopefully he'll be back. But let's get into this analysis from Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Lots of hard truths here. And they're speaking to the Ravens self-sabotaging, quite frankly. And we all know it. So there's some out there that are doing some mental gymnastics and want to make this more difficult than it needs to be in what happened with the Ravens against the Bills. But I think it's pretty clear. I've been singing what the issue is. I've been trying to make it very clear. I think most of us know, but when Bill Belichick and Tom Brady, who have, 6 rings together, they've been up against the Ravens. They know how to win. They know how to win in the playoffs. They know how to win in the Super Bowl. And they break it down, and they do not hold back on what went wrong Sunday night.
A couple of key passes, drop a 2-point conversion.
Hold on, let's rewind that.
I've been saying this all year about the Ravens. I think they're maybe the best team in football, but when they've beaten themselves, they've beaten themselves. And I thought yesterday was unfortunately another example of that for the Ravens. Quarterback fumbles the ball without getting hit. Tight end fumbles the ball really without even getting hit. They drop a couple of key passes, drop a 2-point conversion. I think when you look at it, the Ravens aren't saying, well, we got beat by Buffalo. They really outplayed us. I think they're saying we had some easy opportunities and we just screwed them up. And that's heartbreaking when that happens.
Tom, give us the trademark line. line. You can't.
I used it on the air the other day. I say, hey, my old coach used to say you can't win till you can keep from losing. And that's the reality. And it's just the self-inflicted wounds. They've done it. And Baltimore had a great season, but it comes to a screeching halt when you don't do some of the things they've done so well all season. That's playoff football.
I like the word that Tom Brady used at their end. He's like, that's just the reality. That's just the reality. And some of us need to get in that reality because we're getting a little too cute in our analysis. Hear from Bill Belichick. I've mentioned it a few times. I think it started all the way back in week 3. He says it here again. I've been saying this all year about the Ravens. I think they're maybe the best team in football. But when they've beaten themselves, they've beaten themselves. And I thought yesterday, he was obviously speaking on Monday, was unfortunately another example of that for the Ravens. And then he breaks it down. I love how he makes it clear too. He's not just going to break down the turnovers, which we obviously already know. Okay. He doesn't just name them, but very quickly, as the Super Bowl winning head coach that he is, he makes it clear how the turnovers happened, which in his estimation, I've seen a lot of people be like, give Bills the credit. Give Bills the credit. They made the turnovers happen. I'm sorry. I'm giving them credit for playing smart football, having a smart strategy, which is to play vanilla, because you know you're playing against a team who historically in the playoffs shoots themselves in the foot. So I give them credit for that. But I'm not giving them credit for all of these turnovers. Sorry. And guess who else is not? Bill Belichick and Tom Brady. Okay. He says the quarterback fumbles the ball without getting hit. Yes, the snap was bad. Absolutely. Lamar Jackson has already admitted to it. He should have just fallen on the ball. You do that when the game is tied in the second quarter. I love Lamar and his athletic. I love that he makes magic out of nothing. But the learning moment here is that put on the cape when it's absolutely necessary. Don't risk having to put on the cape when the game is tied at 7 in the second quarter. Now, if that bad snap happens and you're down by 7 in the fourth quarter, make that magic happen. We've seen it a million times before. Then the risk becomes worth it. Okay, so he says the quarterback fumbles the ball without getting hit. The tight end fumbles the ball really without getting hit. Yes, he got punched out, but that was like one of those. That was not one of those like, you know, you're tied up by one person, another comes in, and then it punches out. Like it was just like the ball was exposed. That's Bill Belichick's analysis. The tight end fumbles the ball really without getting hit. They drop a couple of key passes. It wasn't them coming in there and playing great defense. Okay. They drop a 2-point conversion in his hands. Nobody's on him. I think when you look at it, Bill says the Ravens aren't saying, well, we got beat by Buffalo. They really outplayed us. I think they're saying we had some easy opportunities and we just screwed them up. And he says it's heartbreaking, and it is heartbreaking. It is heartbreaking. But I see no lies told by Bill Belichick here. No lies told here. What about with Tom Brady? My old coach, meaning Bill Belichick, used to say, you can't win until you keep from losing. And that's the reality. It's just the self-inflicted wounds. They've done it. And Baltimore had a great season, but it came screeching to a halt when you don't do some of the things that they've done so well all season. Here's the key words, that's playoff football. Take it from Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. Playing playoff football is not making the mistakes for your opponents. No, I said this yesterday. Don't make the mundane moments, as Chris Long said. Don't make the mundane moments too big for you. We know the big moments aren't too big for you. We watched Lamar Jackson bring that team back in that second half with a MVP level half. We know that's not too big for him. The mundane moments. That's playoff football. You can't win till you keep from losing from the two GOATs there. Now, here's what's crazy. This drives this point home a little bit more. I'll make it a little bit bigger. the Ravens are the first team, talking about self-sabotaging. The Ravens are the first team in NFL history, regular season and postseason, to lose a game in which the following have happened. They rushed for more than 175 yards. We can yell all we want about Derrick Henry getting 16 carries. There's a couple instances that I think he could have gotten the ball more, but overall, I don't think it's what, made or broke the game. You rushed for more than 175 yards on the road. And on top of that, you completed 70% or more of the passes. You averaged 10 yards per pass. You're completing 70% and averaging 10 yards per pass and 175 yards rushing. You convert 70% on third down, and you never had a punt, and you never missed a field goal. First team in NFL history to lose with those numbers. Don't get too cute with the analysis. Don't get too cute and try to blame other things. I mean, we can talk about other details to improve, but let's not pretend that this isn't what happened. According to Next Gen Stats, you want to know how much these turnovers and drops hurt? I'm going to sum it up. 4 plays I'm going to sum up of how bad they hurt by the numbers. Okay. According to Next Gen Stats, the 3 turnovers collectively cost the Ravens a total of negative 36.7 in net win probability. Okay, so I went over to NFL Pro. It works with Next Gen Stats, and it gives you that graphic that looks like a stock market chart, in case you're an audio-only listener. And you can see where if the yellow line, the chart is at that 50, right? In between, you got the Ravens up top with the 100. You got the Bills down below with the 100. And if the line dips below the 50 mark, that means it's starting to favor the Bills. And if it goes up above that 50 mark, it starts to favor the Ravens. The Ravens, immediately start going up. That first drive orchestrated by Lamar Jackson was beautiful. It was beautiful. Despite a drop from Derrick Henry, Lamar scrambles, he throws, he does it all. Beautiful. And it looked like the Bills couldn't handle the Ravens offense all night. That's the way it looked. And so you see them shoot up in the win per probability. What's crazy, so of those 3 turnovers, I told you it's a negative 36.7 in net win probability lost. Okay. Jackson's interception was actually the least costly. So when he threw that interception to Rashad Bateman, because it's so early in the game, it was only a negative 5.9 in the win probability. So all it did was go back down to a 50% chance of winning. You see it here. The Ravens, after that interception, the Ravens were still favored 51 to 49% in winning the game. That first interception was completely overcomable. Is that a word? Overcomable? Okay. But it was the fumble in the next quarter that hurt the most. That was a negative 19.3% in net win probability lost. That hurt. And then the in the middle of what hurt the most was Andrews' fumble with a negative 11.5% win probability lost. And what's crazy, so if you start at baseline at 50% and you lose nearly 37% of that on 3 turnovers, you don't need to overanalyze this game. What's crazy is they still had a chance to win as Lamar and the offense started playing much better. But here's then what finally sealed the deal, as we all know, and this is why late turnovers are worse than early turnovers. The dropped 2-point pass by Mark Andrews was a negative 22.8% win probability loss. 4 plays. And that's what playoffs come down to. 4 plays. 4 plays did the Ravens in. Which is why I agree with the kid Gowie on Twitter. He wrote, "Quit the mental gymnastics. Ravens lost due to drop passes and turnovers. It wasn't due to Derrick Henry having 16 carries. It wasn't due to a lack of talent or takeaways. It wasn't due to play calling. It wasn't due to Harbaugh existing. The offense had 3 turnovers. Bills had 0. I just showed you the math to it. It's what wiped it away. The 3 turnovers and that dropped 2-point conversion. Now, Gowie did reply to a couple of good points made to him, and one of those points was about the sequence where the Ravens had the ball at the 2-yard line. When Lamar Jackson hit Rashad Bateman for 29 yards, or I don't think that's quite right. Yeah, the third quarter where they get the ball down to the 2. And what's funny is they were at a 20% chance of winning at that point, pretty low. And then when Justin Tucker hit the field goal, they stayed at 20%. It didn't help them at all. But if you look over on the next drive, when the Ravens scored a touchdown with Derrick Henry, it shot up from at the beginning of that drive, it was still at 20%. And then once Derrick Henry scored that touchdown, it went up to 42%. So that red zone sequence, while it didn't give him any net negative probability by just hitting the field goal, it didn't help them or hurt them really at all. The touchdown would have helped them significantly. And so to me, that's the best place to criticize Todd Monken and the Ravens outside of the turnovers and the drops. It's what went on with that sequence. John Harbaugh was asked about that sequence, and this is what he had to say about it.
First and goal at the 2 and got held to a field goal. And a lot of people are critical of the fact that Derrick Henry had 1 touch in that sequence. What do you say about that sequence? And do you think of that once the season is over? Do you kind of put that game off more than a week to week?
No, we look at it very closely, and when you're not successful, the play calling is going to be in question. And we question it too. We look at it really hard, and we ran it the first time, and they ran it all out, pretty much an all-out blitz, and stopped it. You can definitely run 3 times into an all-out blitz if you want, but that's probably not very smart. We had a play. The second play was an idea to get kind of sneak Ronnie out, and you got to give the you can say, well, it's a bad call, but if it works and he's wide open, it's a great call. And it's a little bit of a trick play probably. So we tried that. Sure, I'd like them both back. I'd like to throw it. I would like to have thrown it on first down, and not run the trick play on second down, and then now we're in a situation where we're pretty much in a passing situation. They again were pretty much loaded up, and they got pressure and got a sack. So I think that's football. That's the way it goes sometimes. Disappointing. The play calling is not good if it doesn't work. That's the bottom line, and that's how you look at it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's the criticism is they didn't go to Derrick Henry more in that sequence, and they went to him on first down. As John Harbaugh said, they went with an all-out run blitz, and so Derrick Henry and the Ravens lost a yard. So he basically says if he had it, and then the second play they tried to do a trick play to Ronnie Stanley. Obviously didn't work. I think they lost 5 yards on it. I think it's fair. Okay, fine. You don't want to run up the middle again. They've got an all-out run blitz. I would have liked to see maybe a pitch to the outside to Derrick Henry or a read option with Lamar, something to throw off those guys. And we'll never know. But what he's saying is in hindsight, he wishes he threw it on first down, ran it on second, and see what they could have done from there. Because if you threw it on first down when they have an all-out run blitz, then maybe something could have happened. Obviously, that's 20/20 hindsight, but I think the point here is the play calls didn't work. That sequence I don't think is necessarily on the players. I think the turnovers and the drop passes, which are much bigger, are. And if you want to criticize the play calling, that would be the place to do it. And so, again, the lesson here is don't turn the ball over, score in the red zone. You're going to win in the playoffs. You're going to win in the playoffs. Okay, we're going to turn the page to Mark Andrews in just 1 second. Let me go ahead and look at one of these. If we have time at the end, maybe I'll do some Q&A of super chats towards the end. Maybe like 10 minutes of that. Maybe so if you have any questions, hit me with the super chat. And I'll see what we can do on the back end to answer those. So we'll get through Mark Andrews and him finally breaking his silence. We'll get to the head coaching situation and what it means for Todd Monken. We'll do some quick hits and maybe some Q&A. Captain Hard says, I think we need to open the checkbook for a top pass rusher. That's one way to create turnovers in the playoffs. Yeah, we're going to need to have a breakdown. Hopefully we can do that next week, a breakdown of the Ravens cap situation, because they have 80% of their starters already under contract. A, they're not going to have a lot of money, and B, they're not going to need a lot of people. But I hear you on the pass rusher stuff. The Ravens did finish the season second most in sacks. Doesn't feel that way because it's not like a TJ Watt or a Myles Garrett who's just a game wrecker, right? Like they got a couple of solid guys, and you've got Dr. Rush as the pass rush specialist. So they do get home. They did get home second most in the league. But to your point, Captain Hard, it's got to be turnover-worthy plays, which is what the Ravens are looking to do. All right. Mark Andrews. Haven't heard from him. He's gotten a lot of criticism throughout national media for not speaking and not facing the music after he blew it in this loss. So he finally did speak up via Instagram. And here's what he had to say. It's impossible to adequately express how I feel. I'm absolutely gutted by what happened on Sunday. I'm devastated for my teammates, my coaches, and Ravens fans. I pour every ounce of my being into playing at the highest level possible because I love my team and the game of football like nothing else. That is why it's taken me until now to collect my thoughts and address this publicly. Even though the shock and disappointment are unlike anything I've felt before, I refuse to let the situation to define me. So I want to come back to that in a minute. I refuse to let the situation define me. Okay. Goes on to say, I promise that this adversity will only make me stronger and fuel us as we move forward. I thank everyone who has shown me and our team genuine support these past several days. Despite the negativity, I've seen heartfelt love and encouragement, including from those who have generously donated to the Breakthrough T1D organization. The last time I saw it, Bill's Mafia has donated more than $100,000 to that charity of Mark Andrews. He goes on to say, even when the moment seems darkest, perspective can reveal that there's still a lot of light in this world. I'm now going to do my part to bounce back and contribute to it. I think that's well written. To hear that he's gutted and devastated by what happened, and he obviously feels a lot of, as he said, devastation, maybe a little bit of guilt towards his teammates and coaches and the fans. And I like his resolve. I like that he's saying he's going to refuse to let the situation to define me, and he's going to find a way to make it stronger. And I like that he's focused because he has gotten a lot of hate. We already know that he's, gotten death threats, and his girlfriend had to shut down her IG account. We know, and we've seen that negativity. And I like that he's not giving oxygen to that negativity. He doesn't have any he doesn't need to give more headspace to any negativity. He's got enough to overcome. So I like that last paragraph, especially where he's focusing on those that have his back and those that have donated to his organization. And so I like that he has seen that light. He says, even in those darkest moments, you can see the light in this world, and that he sees that perspective. So I like that paragraph. I think the whole thing is well written. And so you guys have heard me before. I'm not a Mark Andrews hater. I'm not calling for him to be cut. I can move forward with Mark Andrews into this next year. I want to see him overcome this. I hope he has an opportunity to, exact his vengeance, right? And overcome this moment. I want to see all of that for him. And I say all of that, and I also want to say that two things are true at once. I wanted to see Mark Andrews do this either Sunday night or at the very least Monday night. I would have liked to have seen this earlier, and it's not and I don't say that to bash him alone, because I think Mark Andrews is stronger than ducking out for a couple of days. I know he was strong enough to say these type of things, maybe minus the charity stuff because it hadn't happened yet. And I felt like he let that darkness overcome him for a couple of days. And I know he's stronger than that. I know he is. I've watched him. He's a consummate pro. He's bigger than what happened to him in that game. And I felt like it beat him for a couple of days. And I know going forward, he's going to overcome it all. At least I have that faith. And I want to listen in on, this is before he put out in his Instagram post, but First Take debated about whether he should have spoken Sunday night or Monday during locker room cleanout. I might pause it a few times along the way.
You have a problem that he hasn't spoken to the media?
Absolutely not. And if you have a problem with it, I got nothing for you. And I would say other stuff. Dude, this guy's an all-time great Raven. And in that situation, like, not only does he have two crucial plays that rip at you, and you think about it from your playing that game and all the work that you've done from a kid to put yourself in that situation. This dude's fighting stuff inside right now that sucks to go through. And you know that's a Super Bowl winning team or Super Bowl caliber team that you kind of let down. And Lamar's your boy. And you've let your boy down in that situation a little bit. I got no problem with Mark taking whatever the time he needs to do. This dude's been a professional his whole career. I got no issue with that at all.
All right, just to pause it before we get to Stephen A's take. All I hear there, and maybe this is my personality, all I hear there from Dan Orlovsky, which he is telling some truths, right? Mark Andrews is, ripped up inside for Lamar Jackson. He's ripped up inside for his teammates, and he's dealing with stuff. Okay? But if somebody says that to me, and all I hear is that you think I'm not strong enough. That's all I hear. That's all I hear. There's got to be a place where there's compassion, and within that compassion, we show people that we know they're strong enough. To me, all I hear there is him saying Mark Andrews was too weak to do it. And I don't believe that. I know he was strong enough. I know he was. And that's one reason why I appreciate, one of the reasons why I married my husband is because he pushes me to do things that he knows that I can do. And we do that for our kids, right? We don't push them when they're not quite ready yet. They're still growing and learning and all of that. But he's absolutely right. Mark Andrews has been a pro for his whole professional career. He's been one of the toughest-minded Ravens out there. And he's been great having Lamar's back, Harbaugh's back when Harbaugh's been going through bad things, all of that. All of that. So I'm not saying this to tear apart Mark Andrews. I'm saying it because I think he let the moment get to him for a couple of days. So and listen, I appreciate, and everybody can take things their own ways, but if Dan Orlovsky said that to me, all I hear is Dan Orlovsky saying to me, Sarah, yeah, you're not strong enough. Go. I know you're torn up. Right? And Mark Andrews said in that statement, I pour every fiber of my being into football. And I love that. I know that's true about him. That's why he is the Ravens touchdown leader of all time in the franchise. Okay? What I would have liked Mark Andrews to do is what Isaiah Thomas told Clifton Brown, which I have now referenced 3 times on the show since the first time I heard it. And Isaiah Thomas, when he would go into the playoffs, what he said is, I imagined the worst possible thing happening and then how I will respond. Because for you to overcome your worst nightmare, you have to envision it and have a plan. And so to me, as Mark Andrews, and this goes for all NFL players, you have to imagine both the best thing, like you can imagine yourself catching that game-tying touchdown, or in this case, the game-tying 2-point conversion. You imagine that, you think about the things that you'll say and how you'll feel and all of that. You know your team will call your name more often than not when the game's on the line. So you have to imagine, as Isaiah Thomas did, the worst thing happening. And the worst thing happening is what happened on Monday night, or excuse me, on Sunday night. And so you have to come in with the plan and say, okay, if I'm the reason that we lose this game that's so important, what am I going to do? And so when you prepare for football, you also prepare for the part of your job that we all know is a part of your job, which is facing the music afterwards. I watched Mark Andrews do interviews after he broke the franchise touchdown record, and I wanted to see him do it a couple days ago. Again, not to beat him down, because I'm riding with him going forward. I'm not here to beat him down. He is going to be a Raven, and I do have his back. These are things you say to somebody who you know can do it. You know you can do it. And Stephen A. Smith went into that a little bit, also made another point of if Mark Andrews doesn't do it, look who does have to do it.
We're not talking about him having to deal with insults and shrapnels of criticism being thrown in his face.
Sure.
We're talking about a consummate professional,
Yes, sir,
who's exercised professionalism throughout his career, that understands what comes to it. But there are too many players throughout history that have told all of us, especially the reporters, when players don't do that, it leaves the onus on other players to do it for them. Lamar Jackson had to go up there and talk about Mark Andrews. John Harbaugh had to go up there and talk about Mark Andrews. The other players had to talk about what transpired. When you go through what you're going through, there's a level of adversity that's coming your way because it's on you. The drop 2-point conversion, the strip in the middle of the field while y'all driving for a touchdown. When you're going through that, you have to be the one to answer the questions. You can't leave that. You can't leave it alone, because when you leave it alone, you're leaving it on others.
Putting on the shoulder.
have him in. He's a way more better player
how does
than I
that work? Does somebody have to give you permission that you can miss out on talking to the media, or
No,
how does that
your
go?
contract binds you to make yourself readily available after the game, right?
Okay.
But if you do not want to talk to you, it may come with a fine if they don't act. You can't force somebody to talk to you, nor can you avoid somebody from talking to you.
I 1,000% agree with Stephen A. Smith. 1,000%. And I know I was able to kind of check out chat while that was going, and people calling it petty. This is not about being petty. The point is far over your head. It's about building Mark Andrews back up. Mark Andrews said, by not being able to speak, number one, I'm not honoring my contract. You just heard Cam say it's in the contract. What if everybody made the same decision that Mark Andrews did? Would you have a problem then? Coach Harbaugh's not speaking. Lamar Jackson's not speaking. Everybody. Marlon Humphrey doesn't speak. We're just going to shut it down. No post-game press conference. No. If you want to be the man whose number is called when the game is on the line, what comes with that is facing the music however it ends. That's part of the responsibility of being able to have your number called upon. And this isn't about being petty. This is about doing small things that said Mark Andrews could have walked in there and said, this moment didn't beat me. I'm bigger than what just happened to me. I'm saying it to help Mark Andrews, not to bury him. You're stronger than that, Mark. You're stronger than that. I know you are, because I've been watching you your whole professional career. It's not about pettiness. It's not about oh, you owe me an answer. Mark doesn't owe me anything. He doesn't owe Ravens fans anything. It's to show himself that I wasn't beat down by this moment. I faced the music. I faced it. And then at least that, he has that to hang on to. Because then instead of doing that, because we knew that people were going to criticize him anyway for the drop and the fumble, but then it became day by day more segments like this, criticizing him for leaving it up to Lamar Jackson. And people will say, well, what's he supposed to say? What's he supposed to say? Whatever it is, say what you said there. I know when Lamar went up there, he showed, hey, I should have fallen on the ball. I should have. And so there's Lamar taking all the blame. He says, no, it's a team game. It's a team game. It's a team game. So then we have those comments from Lamar where he's taking it upon himself. I should have fallen on the ball. I should have looked the receiver off or the safety off and not thrown the interception. And we don't have what Mark Andrews would have said, which would have been, it's not on Lamar, it's on me. And the whole team says it's on me. But we only had everybody else saying it's on me. He's stronger than that. He's bigger than that. I don't think this is a petty thing. It's the small things in these moments. And I hope that I would have, when I'm down, I'm glad I have somebody who is whispering into my ear, you're stronger than this. Go in there and face the music. Go do it. Go do it. I don't want somebody like Dan Orlovsky saying, it's okay. Go home. Go home. For me personally, I don't want a Dan Orlovsky whispering in my ear, you're going through too much. You need a break. This is too much for you to handle. Go on, go home. For me, that's not what I want. I want somebody whispering up to me, you got to go face the music, and I know you can because you're stronger than what just happened to you. That's me. That's me. So that's why I agree with Stephen A. It's not to criticize him. It's to build him up. All right. Meanwhile, after that post, I am happy to see this. Once Mark Andrews posted his Instagram message, I mean, look at all these teammates. They all have his back. And I am happy to see that. And I'm happy to see, by the way, 2 days later, that Mark Andrews is seeing the light, is seeing positivity and saying that he's going to be, he's going to overcome this. I'm happy to see that. Let's blow this up. So Rashad Bateman replies. Roger Rosengarten replies. Zachary Orr replies. All kind of the same thing. Gang, my dog. Let me see who all these people are. Isaiah Likely, Big Bruh, Tylan Wallace, all love. Patrick McCary, dog. Marlon Humphrey, brother man. The Ravens team account responded. They all have his back. I like to see that. I love to see that. He's going to need it. He's going to need it. And I hope he gets a chance to overcome it on the field at some point next year. Meanwhile, I'm seeing a lot of calls for Isaiah Likely getting the ball more. I don't hate that. I mean, they're both going to be on the team next year, all three of them. Probably the best tight end room in the NFL. Isaiah Likely in 2022 had 60 targets. Ironically, with Mark Andrews injured for a good chunk of the season last year, his targets dipped to 40. And then this year it went back to 58, almost matching his rookie year. And at 2023, it's probably because the Ravens were in more three wide receiver sets than they were in 2022 and 2024, when you had Zay and Rashad and OBJ. So you were seeing a lot more three wide receiver sets. So that probably dug most into Isaiah Likely because with Mark Andrews not there, he actually had less targets last year. But his touchdowns keep going up. And I do not hate the idea of going to Isaiah Likely with the game on the line. We know about the toe not getting in, which is better than just dropping a pass. But he's gone from 3 touchdowns to 5 touchdowns to 6. He's a red zone target. He's been clutch. He's come up big in big moments. And I think that deserves more looks and more targets going forward. And that will be up to everybody. That's up to Isaiah. That's up to Mark. That's up to Lamar. It's up to Monken. It's up to all of them. But the more he comes through, the more Lamar will keep looking for him. But something tells me Lamar's not going to leave Mark by the wayside. I don't think he's going to do that. All right. Let's transition here. We got some breaking head coaching news since the last time we spoke yesterday. The Jacksonville Jaguars have filled their head coaching vacancy. Liam Cohen informed the Buccaneers that he's going to be taking that job. That was a place where Todd Monken had interviewed. I think it was online. We were getting, yesterday at this time, we had an indication that maybe Todd wasn't going to be that guy, because when they did second interviews in person, when Todd was then available since the playoffs, the Ravens had been knocked out of the playoffs, he didn't get one of those. And just a little bit after the show yesterday, this was was announced. And then just right before the show today, the Raiders' job has been filled. They went with Pete Carroll. And the Raiders was a team that had requested an interview from Todd Monken. I don't think that they ever made that happen. I believe I saw an ESPN article by Jamison Hensley saying that they were going to get that interview on Friday of this week, but they never made it because they went with Pete Carroll. And that makes a lot of sense for the Raiders, because they need stability over there. And Pete Carroll can provide that. So that leaves just the Saints and the Cowboys jobs open, neither of which have I seen Todd Monken be interviewed for. I haven't seen any reports that show that those two teams are interested in Todd. That could always change. So until all head coaching vacancies are filled, there's always the chance that Todd Monken could become a candidate. But it's looking increasingly likely that, I left that there. It's becoming increasingly likely that Todd Monken will stay as the Ravens offensive coordinator, which in my view is excellent news. Under Todd Monken in 2024, the Ravens were number 1 in total offense, number 1 in rushing offense, number 7 in passing offense. Remember the year under Greg Roman? Number 1 in rushing? We're like, oh, he's just a genius run game coordinator. But then they had like the 32nd ranked pass offense. One of the reasons why the Ravens brought Todd Monken here was to marry the run and pass game. Mission accomplished. He kept the rush offense, and how could you not, with Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry as your duo, and Justice Hill was running out of his mind this year. They didn't even, when Keaton Mitchell came back, they couldn't even get to him, given how well Lamar and Justice and Henry were doing. So he kept the number 1 rush offense and had him all the way up to number 7 in the passing offense. He empowered Lamar. We all knew Lamar could do this. He needed a chance. Todd Monken was able to provide that. They are number 3 this year in points per game, number 3 in third down offensive percentage, number 20 in fourth down. Got to fix that. They seem to finally fix it with some of those tush pushes with Mark Andrews. And they were number 1 in red zone offense, which is why it's still a killer that they weren't able to convert after Rashad Bateman caught that ball at the 2-yard line. So this is good news. And if last year wasn't enough for you, how about this? Let's look at the 2 years that Todd Monken has been here. Combined 2023 and 2024. Number 1 in red zone percentage, TD percentage, number 1 in rushing yards, number 1 in passer rating, number 2 in offensive points per game, number 2 in yards per play, number 2 in total yards over the last 2 years. Offensive coordinators can get in your way. We saw it with Greg Roman. Todd Monken did the opposite of that. And then on top of it, now to me, the big, mark on Todd Monken's career here with the Ravens is that AFC Championship game. But my goodness, did he and Lamar and that offense solve the Steelers' problem? I mean, they were just running all over the Steelers. Steelers couldn't do anything, Week 16 or in the wild card game. And as I've said before, outside of that sequence at the 2-yard line, I thought Todd Monken called a mostly good game against the Bills. When you don't ever punt, your offensive coordinator did a good job. You never punted. Not once. You were moving the ball. You outgained them. I showed you the stats before, how the Ravens were the first team in NFL history to rush for to lose when they rushed for 175 yards, completed 70% or more of their passes, averages 10 yards or more per pass, converted 70% of their third downs, and didn't have to punt. That's a good game by Todd Monken. He messed up in that AFC Championship game for sure. That was a good game by Todd Monken. All right. Quick hits. Ronnie Stanley has also joined Kyle Van Noy in becoming later additions as alternates to go into the Pro Bowl. So Ronnie Stanley will be taking the place of, I lost his name, but he will be taking the place of somebody else that was going to be there. So Ronnie Stanley and Kyle Van Noy now in, Zay Flowers out because of that knee. So the Ravens originally had 9 players headed to the Pro Bowl. It's now up to 10. This is the first time Ronnie Stanley's going back since 2019, before all those injuries started to plague him. So good for him. What a comeback year. He's going to have some offers. I'd like to see the Ravens make him an offer, but I don't know that there's any guarantee that he will be back. Also, you saw me use this graphic yesterday from Mike Sando of The Athletic, where he was looking at quarterback EPA, and he compared quarterbacks' EPA in the regular season versus the postseason. And we saw prior to 2023 that Lamar Jackson was really low. I mean, really bad in EPA in the playoffs. See how much he's improved. You can see him on here. He's improved, getting closer to the baseline of what he's used to playing in the regular season. Still a gap to be closed, but he's getting much closer. He probably closed like half of the gap in the last 2 years. Okay. So I love that about Lamar, that he improves. So I reached out to Mike because I was very curious where Joe Flacco was on this list. There were a lot of dots on here that didn't have names of quarterbacks. Mike Sando was nice enough to clue me in. So he responded to me. I now have it in here. Joe Flacco is that blue dot below and to the left of Eli Manning. Not shocking that Joe Flacco was better in the playoffs than he was in the regular season. And the more playoff games you have, the closer to your baseline you will get. So Joe Flacco is actually pretty close to his baseline, but slightly better in the playoffs. And we know that because he went on an insane run in 2012/2013. Mike Sando also gave me this context. Mike said Flacco was unusually bad through his first 8 playoff starts and was carried by defense and special teams. He said he was unusually bad. And then he rocketed up with that epic Super Bowl run, which is really good context to have because it just goes to show you how you start is not how you finish. I remember some of those games where the Steelers would knock the Ravens out in those playoff games. Oh, Polamalu coming after Joe Flacco. It just seemed like every time. And then finally in 2012, they broke through. How many playoff games has Lamar played so far? What's his record? Let me look this up real quick. If that Lamar Jackson playoff record, I think he's 3-5, but let me double check it. Yeah, he's 3-5. So Lamar now has 8 playoff games, and Sando is saying that Joe Flacco was unusually bad in his first 8 playoff starts. But it just goes to show you that legacy is more how you finish, not how you start, because we all think of, we call him January Joe, right? January Joe for a reason. But according to Mike Sando and this EPA stuff, he wasn't good in his first 8. And then he took off during that Super Bowl run. It's not how you start, it's how you finish. Lamar is already improving. He's done his first 8. Let's hope he skyrockets up, much like Joe Flacco did. Forgot to put you here, but Browns coach Kevin Stefanski will resume play calling duties next season for the Browns. He relinquished them midway through 2024. So there's that. But I'll tell you what, the Browns aren't going to be doing much under with their current quarterback. I can tell you that much. They got a lot to fix. All right. This might actually be an hour-long show. Okay. That's the end of Quick Hits. Let me hit up some of these super chats. The last ones for now. Sod Blitz 34 says, Todd Monken, in 2023, Ravens hand the ball off 8 times in the AFC Championship. In 2024, Ravens run no read options with Lamar and Henry in the divisional round. I would actually like to ask Todd Monken about that. Because we saw those read options nonstop against the Steelers. And I'm just curious why we didn't see them in that divisional round. I'm right there with you, Sod. That being said, these two things are nowhere near in the same ballpark. You know what I mean? And by the way, Ravens hand the ball off 8 times. Now, I remember they had 6. I don't know. Is that completely accurate? Because the stat has grown over the years. I remember they had 6 rushes with running backs. Was that in the second half? Because they did run more than that, but it was more Lamar was running. You know what I mean? But again, not doing read options versus like just not running enough at all are 2 very different things. I thought Todd Monken did very well this year and in the playoffs. I thought he had a big bounce back in the playoffs. All right. Let me check out chat here for a second before we wrap up. Let's see here. Okay, here we go. Sod's got me. Sod says 16 total, 8 quarterback runs, 8 running back runs. Yeah, that sounds more like it. So anyway, I think that's a legitimate question of why there weren't more read options, just because they were so dominant with it the week before. I just felt like for most of December they were in their bag with that. So if the Bills are selling out against the run, why not try to like make them pause for a second by trying to figure out which guy is going to have the ball, which guy is going to carry it. So I think that's a fair question. I just wouldn't put the 2 in the same category. Like I just thought I thought that was just inexcusable against in the AFC Championship game. All right. Anything else here? People are disagreeing with me. Someone please take Monken away. Oh my gosh. Somebody explain this to me. You want to take away a guy who is number 1 in red zone percentage, number 1 in rushing yards, number 1 in passer rating over the last 2 years, 2 in offensive points, 2 second in yards per play, and second in total yards per game. And I think number 3 just this last year in points per game. Make that make sense. And absolutely destroyed the Steelers in the wild card round. And never had a punt against the Bills. Nah. I'm keeping Todd Monken. I can maybe. It's not the regular season. I just told you what happened in the wild card. He destroyed the Steelers in the wild card, and they didn't have to punt in the divisional round. Yeah, Ravens did lose. And why was it? Because of the turnover. See, this is where y'all are getting too cute again. You know what you guys are doing? You guys are doing the equivalent of the ball is at the 1, and you have Derrick Henry, and you don't use Derrick Henry at the 1. You're getting too cute. You're out thinking the room. You guys are out thinking the room. You're getting too cute. The Ravens had 3 turnovers and a dropped 2-point conversion. And you want to get rid of Todd Monken. You are the equivalent of an offensive coordinator that gets too cute and doesn't use Derrick Henry at the 1-yard line. Yeah. It's too much for me. Anyway, doesn't matter in the end because Todd Monken is looking like he will come back. Depending on what happens with these last 2 coaching vacancies. But he didn't have any interviews with them up until today. If that changes, maybe things will change. But I think it'll be a good thing that the Ravens will have 80% of their starters back. Maybe more if they're able to re-sign a few guys. You're going to have your defensive coordinator back. You're not going to have to start from scratch there and go through those growing pains. And if Todd Monken stays, you're not going to have to go through another offensive coordinator. And so when Derrick Henry the other day says we're going to run it back, I think that's a good thing because they were the most talented. Just don't do those turnovers. So that is all I have for you guys today. We're going to be wishing Bobby the most. Actually, let's do one more thing. Who do you guys got in these games this weekend? We got Chiefs, Bills. I know you don't want to think about it because the Ravens aren't there. We got Commanders, Eagles. Okay, Chiefs, Bills, Commanders, Eagles. Okay. I'm taking Chiefs over the Bills. They aren't the best team in the world, or I guess I'll say it this way. They're not as good as they used to be, but they weren't last year either. And they know how to finish. The Bills did beat them in the regular season. But the Bills have beaten them in the regular season before and weren't able to do it in the playoffs. And this time they're going to be at Arrowhead instead of in Buffalo. So it's hard for me to bet against the Chiefs. So I think the Chiefs will come out with it. And then when it comes to Eagles, Commanders, listen, Jaden Daniels has been on an all-time rookie run. And maybe he'll pull out some magic again. But I think that the Eagles are the most complete team that they will have faced in these playoffs. The Lions were the number 1 seed, but we know how injured they were. They upset the Bucks. You know, the Bucks were a good team. They were a playoff team, but not the hardest team in the world. So I could be wrong on this one. Maybe Jaden Daniels is just going to defy what most rookies do even more. But I'm taking Chiefs and I'm taking Eagles. I just think the Eagles are too much of a complete team for these Commanders. So on Monday, we will know who those winners are. We'll probably break it down a little bit. And we'll see what else comes about. Let's hope that Bobby starts feeling better over the weekend. Oh, one more super chat came through. Let me hit this up real quick. True Sun. Happy Friday, flock. Today is a great day to have a great one. So true. So true. All right. Appreciate you guys. Enjoyed spending. It's crazy that Friday's here. This has been a crazy week. I think Bobby was able to make it in for 2 of the shows. But I got a lot of respect for everybody that's still been here because I know it's not been fun recapping and looking back on this loss. So I respect all you guys still coming back. Appreciate that. And I hope to see you here again inside the vault on Monday. And hopefully Bobby Baltimore will be back with us. Until then, have a great weekend.